Hello and welcome to Focus on Canada, still here and open for business. And we have three guests today, two from Canada and one from the UK with lots of experience working with Canada. And I'm going to let the speakers introduce themselves, but I will do a very quick introduction. Agnes Augustine is from the Shaw Rocket Fund based in Calgary, Canada, and then we have Francois Garcia from Digital Dimensions, which is a Montreal-based collection of animation studios, and then we have Andrew Baker, a producer in the United Kingdom from Cantilever Media. I'm going to let Agnes open for us and give us a brief description of how Shaw Rocket Media Fund works in the children's media sphere.
Great. So thank you for including me. This is fantastic. The Shaw Rocket Fund is a dedicated fund to investing in children's, family, and youth content. We invest in all types of programs for kids, whether it's digital first, television, shorts, features, and also digital content that's associated with that. So our goal is to ensure that we're supporting a whole experience for children. We partner with various producers, as well as looking at ways to be a strategic partner and wanting to be able to help our community create really great programs for children and make sure that they're able to then, of course, exploit them and be able to have kids around the world experience our content, which it also then includes potentially partnering with other parties. We are a strategic investor. We work with producers to have what I would like to say more of a social enterprise model. We are about sustainability of the industry and also, of course, the fund. But as an investor, we want to do strategic investments, but it is about reinvesting in the industry and growing. And I do believe that that's something that makes us unique in Canada and in the marketplace, that we do have a bigger goal in mind and always just ensuring that we are sustainable so that we can continue to give children really amazing content, and which is not only important always, but very important today. So as far as the market in Canada is concerned, we've had a lot of changes over the last few years. We've had some changes with government and regulations. So on one hand, it's been a bit more challenging to finance in traditional models, which normally would be with a broadcaster, some of the other public funds, a private fund like the Shaw Rocket Fund, and tax credits. And while we do still have those financing models in place here, the broadcast environment has shifted quite a bit. And so it has been challenging to do the traditional model. However, of course, those challenges tend to always create innovation. And what we've seen in our Canadian children's landscape is our producers that have gone out and have found lots of interesting partners around the world through either SVOD services to other partners in other countries to be able to help finance their shows. So from that, and again, strategic partners that allow them to be able to get their programming out into the marketplace and be able to also support in the marketing and the discoverability. That's another part of our focus at the Shaw Rocket Fund, is to ensure that what we're investing in has the ability to actually reach kids. So we want to have that piece. So bringing in partners that do that as well. So as far as Canada is concerned, our market is open. We are open for business. Even during COVID, there's been challenges for sure, but our government has continued to work diligently. It supports the arts and culture, and our Broadcast Act is under review, and our understanding from our Minister of Heritage is that there will be announcements in the fall, and it is a continuation of business in Canada, which will, in my opinion, will benefit the children's sector and partners going forward.
Thank you, Agnes. That was very informative. We will now we're going to move east across Canada to Montreal, and I'd like to introduce Francois Garcia. He is with the Digital Dimensions Entertainment Group, who have animation studios that provide production services and also work directly with willing to work directly with British producer partners. Francois?
Hello everyone, François Garcia, Digital Dimension. We're an animation studio based in Montreal. We're currently about 150 artists and managers, and we're growing as the industry is demanding more animation content. Quick history, we were founded in 1996. We started in visual effects in the gaming industry, and 4 years ago, we shifted to concentrate strictly on animation. We started doing service work. We've worked on series such as Sadie Sparks, Helen's Little School, and Mighty Mike, which is our first co-production. And this show, I have to say, was produced with the support of the Shaw Rocket Fund. Thank you, Agnes. On these co-production projects, work was shared with other partners, typically in France, who we regularly work with. One claim to fame is that we're the first studio to have produced a complete series using real-time technology. We did a series called Zafari, 52 11-minute episodes, and we developed our own pipeline to include benefits from real-time technology. The series we worked on for service are really exciting projects, and we have a 1-minute montage here to present to you while I keep on telling you incredible stories about our studio and the wonderful Canadian market. Looking ahead, and in fact, last year we created our own IP development team. So we're leveraging service to move into the original IP realm. We have a team of storytellers and concept artists in the studio, and we're developing series mostly, which we hope will resonate with our audiences. At Kidscreen, we presented 6 new series and a feature film. We met with broadcasters, streamers, toy makers, and so on. And we got a good reception on all these projects, and we're actually doing follow-ups as we speak. We also rebranded and presented our new brands at Kidscreen. Digital animation had been associated with a variety of services, as I said, visual effects and so on. And so we have 2 new banners. One which is Saturday Animation Studio, which is for kid and family content. The other being Medusa Arts, which is for young adult and older. So I'm very proud of our strategy to put creativity at the forefront while developing proprietary technology to support our visual exploration. Speaking of COVID, since March, we've all been working from home. And I have to say that although it was quite daunting at first, everything seems to be working very well. In fact, we're on track and performing at least as well as when everyone is at the studio. We've even managed to online debut 2 productions, 2 series while working remotely. So that's something to be said about the way we're working now. And I expect that we won't be going back to the way we were. Although we have a huge studio, I expect that we will have rotations and flexibility to work from home and at the studio when indicated. In terms of market, the worldwide demand for animation is growing like never before. New platforms, streamers, toy makers, filmmakers are making this the most productive years ever. We're presented with amazing opportunity to collaborate on projects with the UK and the world over. As Agnes said, with the older production model, work is split between territories and it has become quite challenging to finance projects. Not impossible, but it's more challenging. Whereas with streamers now, it's quite, I wouldn't say easy, there are different conditions, but it's quite straightforward. And instead of having work split, at least in our case, we're doing 100% of the work in our studio. And that has some efficiencies in production and on the bottom line. Canada is an animation hub from coast to coast, starting west, Vancouver, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Halifax are all developing important animation industries. And large studios are also coming from abroad to establish themselves to benefit from tax credits. We have creativity, innovation, 40% or so Canadian tax credits, and a favorable exchange rate, which all means more business for us. The challenge looking forward is staffing with experienced artists and managers. So we are scouting the world and hiring from the right talent from everywhere we can find it. The future is bright. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francois. Now, we can't all be Canadian on this panel, so I'll ask Andrew Baker to join us from Cantilever Media, based in the United Kingdom. Andrew is a producer and executive producer who has worked across all genres of children media and is currently producing his first animated feature film, The Amazing Morris, which is based on Sir Terry Pratchett's award-winning book, The Amazing Morris and His Educated Rodents. Andrew, I know you have a lot of experience working with Canada in official treaty co-productions and through production services work. Can you describe a bit of your work at Cantilever Media and your experiences working with Canada?
Thank you very much, Rosemary. Yes, we're very busy at the moment. So I've worked with Canada for the last 15 years. And that's been through a variety of projects, some of my own, some on other people's projects. And that's been both treaty co-productions, so official co-productions where we've got approval from the governments of both countries, and it's been a true co-production, as well as service deals where we've gone to Canada and we've just worked with a specific partner on a work for hire deal, or maybe they brought some finance, but really it's been about working specifically with a company that we really want to work with for that particular project. So as an example, the last project I did that was a service deal was Robozuna for ITV and for Netflix. And that was a UK production where we did most of the animation in Canada, in Montreal. And that was a straight service deal for us. We retained all rights and we just had a really great studio that we worked with. Equally, I've worked on many different treaty co-productions with a lot of different Canadian production companies. And in that instance, it's about finding the right partner who is is going to be a proper co-producer with you. They bring the Canadian broadcasters, they bring finance, but also they bring their own creative vision to your project. And so it's very much about a partnership rather than just commissioning someone to do some specific work. I've worked across animation, live action, documentaries, and although most of what work I now do is in animation. And so, for example, I have a documentary that I'm doing at the moment and a movie, but I'm also developing some other projects, specifically with Francois at the moment, which will be an animated film and a series. And for me, Canada offers a really attractive prospect for both accessing talent and a great cultural fit, and also finance. And normally nobody co-produces unless you need to. And there's lots of good reasons why you would want to co-produce, but usually you do it because you need to, and you need the finance. And so for me, Canada is a very, very good co-production territory to work with. And it's something that I will continue to do a lot of in the future.
Thank you, Andrew. Andrew and Francois have mentioned in their opening address a lot of the benefits of producing with Canada. I will include, after this session, you'll find on the CMC website some resource materials from both the BFI, Telefilm Canada, and other resources on how to produce, how to work with Canada in a co-production sphere that you can look up. But I was going to turn now to Agnes if she might want to detail the benefits of actually working with, the benefits of co-producing with Canada.
Well, there's lots of benefits to producing in Canada. And, you know, I think that, and lots were talked about, both Andrew and Francois were very, actually did a great job. Thank you for being able to identify lots of the benefits. But I have to say that, you know, the Shaw Rocket Fund works with all the Canadian companies across the country. And one of the things that I always like to point out is we have world-class companies and organizations that bring experience in every aspect of production, whether it's live action, animation, talent, writing, distribution, and market, an understanding of market. So one of the benefits of co-producing with these companies is as Andrew pointed out, finding your right partner, because there's different companies that offer different ways to finance and different services, whether it's a service production or an international co-production as to an actual treaty co-production, or whether or not you're needing an expertise on either side and how you balance that. It is a balance, and co-productions by far, as Andrew pointed out, are not easy, and you have to make them work. But when they work really well, and the partnerships are very strong and allow for that bigger strategic placement of your shows. And I think that I do think that that's one of the biggest benefits of Canada, besides the money. I mean, we do have a very robust system still in Canada, even with our challenges. And if you have a great company that you're partnering with in Canada that understands your needs, there are ways to really be successful in the financing and then also the exploitation of that content. So in addition to the money and the tax credits, which again, going with a company that understands the various provinces and the various incentives, they are varied. There's quite a bit. So it is a big puzzle, and having somebody who can understand how that fits best with your content and with your co-producing partner.
Thank you. Francois, do you have anything to add on the benefits of producing with Canada?
I think that really we're creative in finding solutions. And I've found out through my whole life that basically, typically we start off with, we didn't have access to the larger budget. Still, we had to compete for screen time with others. And so we're quite inventive. We were known, first of all, for technical prowesses. And now really the creative is coming in. And as Agnes said, and Andrew said, there's a lot of very good, solid studios in Canada. So you're not looking with a territory where it's weak and basically you're going for the tax incentive. No, it's a complete package, and you have expertise, willingness, openness, transparency, and in the end, it shows up on the screen.
Are there any specific skill shortage issues on the Canadian side? Because that is an issue sometimes in the UK, and going forward, as we don't know what's going to happen post-Brexit, that's a potential issue for us in Britain.
Well, as I said, we're hiring as all the studios are, because there is such demand, and the fact that the schools here don't crank out enough students. And the fact of the matter is that even if they did, you still need to have a good level of mix between intermediary, beginner, and expertise in different areas. To answer your question, yes, it is challenging, and yes, we manage to do it. Not only do we manage, but we assemble these amazing teams. and the end result is the product, and it shows. And so it's part of the recipe. And so it's production, like with anything. It's true that there's a great demand for talent, and that also adds pressure on the salaries going up. So you have to be careful as to how you manage all of that to make sure that the benefits that you have from tax credits, exchange rate, don't go out the window because the salaries have tripled or whatever it is. So you have to be careful about that. And there's a lot of great students and experts throughout the world. And we're also finding that we're getting people from the gaming industry into our world because we're now using real-time technology. So we're not just going in animation, but we're going in different fields to fill those places and be able to work the way we want to work moving forward.
I'm going to kind of turn the question around upside down and let Andrew start to answer this one. What are some, because you've been experienced with this, Andrew, and you can't say there's nothing. what are the drawbacks or the potential drawbacks of producing with Canada? And the Canadians can think up a diplomatic answer.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the main thing to say is that no matter where you work, a co-production can be challenging because co-production is about sharing. And we all try to share, but it's very hard, especially when your project is your baby. And so I think one of the most difficult things is if you don't find the right partner. If you do get the right partner, co-productions can be the best thing ever. I mean, the combination of two skill sets and the knowledge and experience can make your project far better than it would have been on your own. But the converse is also true. If you have a co-production partner who doesn't share your vision, if you've not really communicated properly with them and you want different things from the production, then that communication can break down and you can have problems. Of course, the solution to that is to communicate more and to work and really engage with the co-production. And it's a skill. And I think there's, in the UK, we are perhaps less practiced at doing co-productions than other nations. We've historically not needed to do so quite so much. But it is something that if you try hard and you work really hard, you can make it work. But the downside is always if you get a partner that isn't quite the right partner, or if you don't go into it in the right way, then it can backfire. I've had difficult experiences on co-productions where it has been about communication. It's been about perhaps assumptions being made that aren't tested and aren't accurate. I do think, though, that is something that is just for any co-production. That's not a Canadian specific issue. I think one thing that is always really important is also just the cultural fit. And I think one of the reasons I love working in Canada is because of that cultural connection. But equally, if you don't have that cultural connection properly, and I have had productions that we've decided to not go through with because we just didn't feel the connection was there. We didn't feel that actually we were looking at problems in the same way. And rather than going into a co-production and having it fail, we've pulled out and said, okay, let's look at this again and do something different. But I think, mostly the issues or problems or downsides you have with Canada are about the relationship. There are then just obvious things like, Canada is a little bit further away than not, jumping on and going down a couple of stops. The good news is if it's Montreal, the time zone isn't crazy. It's a little bit harder on the other coast because it's the time zones. Currencies are an issue. You need to be careful about if you're putting money into Canada or looking to take money out, just making sure that you've hedged your exchange rates, you don't get hit when the currency changes. But I think really it's about just making sure that you're going into it properly and you're prepared and you're planning and you're communicating with your co-producer. And actually, other than that, without being too facetious, Canada is a great place to co-produce. It's certainly my favourite place to go and co-produce. But with anything, you have to be careful and you have to do your homework and you have to have the right partners.
Well, Agnes and François can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Canada pretty much we're the creator of international co-productions or in its quest to grow a production business.
Yeah, well, I can answer. It's in Canada, the co-production business, there has been ebbs and flows, particularly in children's. And there was a time in the 90s and getting into in the earlier parts where we did a lot of co-productions in Canada. And then there was a shift where countries wanted to create their own content for their own audience. And and then of course it shifts back again. And that when we see that ebb and flow, and we are going to see, I think, more of, well, we are, and that's what we're hearing just based on the way the world is right now and the economies and getting out of this, that co-productions will become more important due to financing. But to Andrew's point, I think, yes, we have a lot of experience in Canada, but I can tell you that out of all my work, and we've seen quite a few come through the Shaw Rocket Fund over the years, is the biggest challenge, speaking of where the challenges are, is it's the communication, but to me, it's the transparency at the beginning. And what I find is when producers come to us for financing, we start looking at all the deal points, and there's a lot of, not even so much, I don't even think it's in, a lot of it's unintentional. It's just they do a deal, you're going to do this, we're going to do this, but when you actually start figuring out the details, does it actually make sense? So the challenge with that is you want to have the right relationship, but you need to have someone in your party, whether it's the other, someone in the lead, as far as I'm concerned, that has the bigger view, that can look at how you're going to finance and who needs what, and how they're actually going to be able to deliver that and be able to do that. So to your point, Andrew, when it works really well. And you can see it right at the beginning. When the creative comes in, it's great. The financing comes in, you can tell, exactly where, from an investment standpoint and a return on investment, exactly where you fit in the model and where the potential is. And then you can see that's great. Or it comes in the other way where there's just not a very clear vision anywhere. And then that usually, in my opinion, tends to be driven by money. It's about, so here's the financing, we need money, we find a partner, and those tend to be very challenging for everyone involved, in my opinion.
Has there been development, has there been international co-productions in digital media between Canada and the UK or any other international partner?
We're starting to see them.
Okay.
I mean, it's a treaty. They do qualify now in the treaty, and our tax credits have expanded, and not everywhere, but they're definitely expanding on that front. And I guess the big question for me is, and this isn't even a Canadian comment, but I think, Francois, you're going to probably agree with me on this, that the definition of digital media has shifted too. And it's different depending on who you're talking to. So, frankly, the Shaw Rocket Fund's regulation is different because we're on the private side than the Canada Media Fund, and our definition of digital is different. So it creates, so to me, yes, there's opportunities, but we don't really have full treaty understanding, and which makes it easier on one hand because then you're not tied to everything, but then without having some clear ideas of what that looks like and how you can finance, I think adds a layer of complexity that makes it difficult today. But I think that will shift over the next year or so as everyone moves in that direction. Andrew,
any tips on how you find a Canadian production partner? Where do you go to find them? Is there an online sales site we can all go?
Well, you just get a map and put a pin in it, and there's usually somebody there. No, I mean, I think, there are lots of lists everywhere of Canadian companies that are kind of producing things. I mean, my experience generally is that Canadian companies generally are open to co-productions. If you approach them with a great idea or a great project, they're always very willing to engage and listen. But I think that for me, the steps are to do your homework. So look at what they're actually producing. So if you want to do an animated series, and it's a 2D animated series, don't go and find a co-producer that does live action drama. That does not make any sense at all. Find someone who actually does what you want to do, who's got some expertise and some skill sets, who's got ideally, who's got a track record with the broadcasters. Because on a co-production, they are you in Canada. So they are the ones who will be doing all the deals with the broadcasters, pitching it in, finding the talent, managing the production, raising the finance. So, it does help if they actually do know what they're talking about. So, you know, go for somebody who's got that track record. But the most important thing is then to actually meet them. And normally at this stage, I would say, go to Children's Media Conference and meet somebody there, or go to Kids Screen, or go to MIP, or, you know, but obviously in this slightly strange world we're now living in, that's very, very hard to do. But it shouldn't stop you reaching out and building relationships. And I think part of the thing that it's also worth being aware of is that you don't build a relationship in 5 minutes. You don't meet somebody once and go, great, let's spend the next 4 years doing a co-production together. You know, you need to see them and get to know them and build those relationships and those connections up so that you actually start to know who these people are. And it's not just about a call or a meeting, or, you know, it's about Francois taking you out to a beautiful restaurant in Montreal and plying you with alcohol. And, you know, and it's awful. It's really hard work. But, you know, it is about spending time together and getting to know each other. And then when you actually, you know, feel that then you have that connection, you can start to understand each other. And when there are problems, you resolve them and you can sort them out because you know each other well enough to be able to get over those. So I would say if you are looking at co-producing, it shouldn't be your last resort after everything else has failed. It's about saying, be open to co-producing and start building some relationships and making those connections and getting to know people so that when you do have a project, you can go to them at an early stage and get them on board very early and actually start building something together. You know, where I've seen things go pear-shaped is sometimes where it's very last minute, you don't really know each other. It's just, we need a co-production because we can't fill the budget. And, you know, you can make that work.
It's marriage, yeah. Yes.
It really is. So, you know, it's about getting to know the people and I guess committing to that process. You know, and what's great is that, you know, Canadian producers travel. You know, you don't have to go to Canada. You know, you can go to Florida or Cannes or somewhere like that. But, you know, I'm usually in Canada myself at least twice a year. I'll go for a couple of weeks and I'll just go and meet people, and I'll go and see the broadcasters and I'll go and see producers, just so that actually I have that time that is face-to-face, that isn't, you know, a half-hour meeting in a market. And actually we maintain and build those relationships.
And it's not a one-way, if I may, it's not a one-way relationship, Andrew, correct? We met 2 years ago. We discussed a few projects. Now we're actually doing something together. And we were talking, and I have a project which we're developing, and Andrew said, I said it my way. So it's not just a one shot. You build a relationship and it goes two ways. Andrew needs me for certain things and I need him for other things, and it works out well. It's balanced. So you know you've got a good fit when it comes from both sides with openness like that.
Very much so. And it is something that a lot of UK co-producers tend to forget, which is, as a UK co-producer, you're developing projects and ideas, and you're saying, great, I'm going to go pitch this to a broadcaster and raise some finance. And, oh, I don't have the money, I'll have to co-produce. But actually, you know, in Canada, there is this wealth of talent and creativity. And they are also equally creating projects, trying to pitch to broadcasters, trying to raise money. And they need UK producers to be able to access the European markets and to be able to access UK talent. And so, you know, it's not exactly as Francois says, this is not a one-way street. It's not about going to a market and going, right, I want someone from my project who's going to give me my money and just keep out of the way. It's not. It's a partnership. And actually, there are some amazing Canadian producers who go to those markets looking for UK producers to co-produce with. And, you know, that is where actually you start to feel there is a genuine partnership. And I think that's what makes the best co-productions.
Well, we have history on our side of Canadians and Brits working together to take on the might of Americans. But Agnes, do you have a practical tip to pass on to the British producers?
Yes, actually, I would like. So, Canada, we are much more, well, as I always say Canada, because I think the children's business overall, globally, is a relationship business. Mm-hmm. So to what Andrew was saying, you know, we don't, co-productions used to be really separate years ago, where one country took on one piece and then the other country took on the other piece and the financing was separate. And then it just sort of came together. That's changed. And I think that one of the things that is really important to understand is that we are global. We all work together, and those partnerships are global, particularly in the kids business and those relationship building. So speaking from a financing standpoint, any co-production that comes in or any production that comes in that has an international partner, I can get on the phone and call them, and I can meet with them, and we can collaborate. So in fact, we already do that now, and we continue to do that now. So the benefit of the kids business and the relationship building is that we all are working together. And I think that to not look at it as just about the money. It has to really be about long-term relationships. And even from an investment standpoint, my role is to go out and build relationships. My goal is to have trusted partnerships and have really strong strategic partners in what we do. And I've had some partners internationally that we've talked for 8 years. Mm-hmm. And we can, is this something that works? Maybe not this something. And then when something really works, it works, and you go, great. This is the one. So even though it doesn't have an immediate solution, it is, I think it's important to know that in this world that we have to continue to build those relationships, because it may not be tomorrow, but maybe next year.
And on that point, and as we head into a post-COVID-19 world of international production, we will have to have patience and time and reach out and work across nationalities and skill sets. So I'd like to close on that point and thank all three of you for your time today and sharing your experience and your advice and your guidance. And just advise those of you watching this panel to also check the CMC websites for some practical guides and websites and links that you can look up for assisting you in producing with Canada. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.